What's up, jabronis? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is not going to be the traditional fishing vlog that I normally post. It's going to be more of a fishing story that I back up with some footage from my adventure. About a month ago, I competed in the biggest tournament of my life. Hands down, by far and big and large, the biggest tournament that I have ever had the guts to enter. The 2024 All American Kayak Classic. But before we can get to the complete story, we have to take a moment to send a shout out to our Jabroni of the Week right up here. Thank you so very much, and if you're interested in being our next Jabroni of the Week, be sure to drop a comment at some point in today's video and tune into our next one to see if you were selected. Alright, so let's start from the beginning. The All American Kayak Classic is a tournament that invites anglers nationwide to come and compete. If your tournament club, your kayak club, chooses to participate, then the top 15 anglers in Angler of the Year points at the end of the season qualify and get an invitation into the Classic for the next year. Now, of course, you still have to pay the $200+ entry fee in order to compete, but that's pretty standard for most tournaments. So, at the end of my rookie season last year with the OKC KFC, I just barely squeaked in just enough points to get my invitation to the All American Kayak Classic, which I was super excited and happy to have gotten that invitation, but I did not know if I would have the funds and the ability to travel and attend this tournament. But by hook or crook, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and some very generous people who wanted to help out with my cause, I was able to attend the tournament. I rode up to the tournament, which was taking place in Clinton, Missouri at Lake Truman, with a good buddy of mine, friend of the channel, Joe Carneyman. He and I decided to do this little adventure together to help cut costs and make things a little bit more entertaining, so we had someone to drive with, and it was definitely a huge help for me personally. Now, I want to be completely honest with you guys right here at the beginning. Our trip was a roller coaster ride of ups and downs. The fishing was really not that great. We dealt with a lot of pretty crazy situations while we were up there. It felt at times like anything that possibly could go wrong was going wrong. But we still had an amazing time. We both learned a lot of things and gained a lot of experience, which is why I still wanted to tell you guys about this trip today. So, the earliest that Joe and I were able to set out to Missouri for was the day before the tournament. He and I both had different events going on in our personal lives with our families that, truthfully, just took precedence over leaving the state for a fishing tournament. So we did not get the chance to leave for Missouri until very early in the morning, the day before competition was supposed to start. And it was pretty quick that our trip got started, that things started to kind of go wrong. The entire way up to Missouri, it seemed as if our GPS was not telling us when certain turns and exits were coming up, so we would miss them, and that would add 5 or 10 minutes here or there to our entire trip heading up to Missouri. Probably put us back about 30 minutes to an hour overall. We also were driving through some crazy weather just getting into Missouri, and I had already known that Missouri had been getting tons and tons of rain, especially the lake we were fishing had been getting tons of rain leading up to our trip up there. But it was absolutely insane, the amount of rain that was hitting our windshield. Even with our wipers at full blast, it was hard to see through everything going on. And so we had a feeling that it was going to be a bit of a rough weekend weather-wise heading up to Missouri. Now, on the plus side of all of this, Joe had done an amazing job of preparing us for the journey up to Missouri. He added a new attachment to his kayak trailer, which allowed him to attach my kayak to the top of it, and he even custom built a rod box to put all of our gear in, which was incredibly helpful, especially because I think he put it together in a night or two. He actually made a video on the building of that rod box. I highly recommend you guys go give that a watch. Anywho, so we traveled through Missouri. We saw some interesting sights along the way, including an Amish buggy with an old school Amish guy on top of it, which we do have some Amish here in Oklahoma, but they live quite a ways away from Oklahoma City where I live, so I don't get to see Amish people in real life all that often, and it's always kind of interesting because in some ways I admire their lifestyle, but in other ways I know that it is definitely not for me. But after a while, we did arrive at the lake, at our campgrounds, and to our campsite. We were immediately greeted at our campsite with an older gentleman docking his boat on the shore right in front of our site, and he made it clear from the second we pulled up that he wasn't moving it and that he had just as much right to that piece of land, even though his campsite was about 500 feet away, as we did. As soon as we got done dealing with that gentleman,
Picking up your sarcasm.
Well, I should hope so, because I'm laying it on pretty thick.
we started putting our tent up, and about halfway through getting our tent up, a huge rain cloud flew right over us and just drenched everything, so we had to dry the inside of our tent out. So after all the mayhem of trying to get our tent put up and our campsite put together, we finally seemed to have everything organized, and we were ready to go do what very little bit of pre-fishing we were going to be able to do before the tournament the next day. And then this happened.
I don't think we're gonna get to pre-fish. Just a hunch. This is gonna make this very interesting.
So I'll be completely truthful with you guys. Fishing in rain, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I don't like it, but I'll do it. Fishing in heavy rain, if I have to, if I'm trying to win a tournament, once again, I'll do it. Fishing in hail, not happening. Ain't happening. You're not going to get me doing any type of fishing in hail, whether it's for a tournament or for pre-fishing or anything like that. So we did not get a chance to do pretty much any pre-fishing the day before the tournament. So we were going into day one completely blind and with a true fustercluck of everything that had been going on around our entire trip this entire time. Now, even after all of the chaos that had surrounded the first day of our trip, Joe and I went to bed that night pretty optimistic for the next day. Joe competed in the All American Classic the year before in 2023, and he said that while there's no guarantee that we'll have found the winning fish, that catching fish wasn't going to be an issue, and that there were plenty of fish to catch, and we would at least have a really fun fishing trip. But that didn't happen. The fishing sucked. I have to be completely honest with you guys. Like I said, they got tons and tons of rain for like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks leading up to this tournament. And that put the lake water levels extremely high, like feet by feet higher than what they normally are. There were areas of the lake that locals pointed at that were under 3 to 4 foot of water that they said had been a parking lot just weeks beforehand. So all of those heavy rains brought the lake level way up high, which is going to confuse fish in the first place because there's completely new areas that they had never seen before that they had the chance to explore now. But it also dirtied the water up significantly, which for us Oklahoma guys, we were fairly confident by that because we're used to fishing dirty water. The thing we didn't count on is the fact that these fish are not used to living in dirty water. Our Oklahoma bass grew up and were born and bred in water that's so dirty they can't see barely 6 inches in front of them, and they've adapted to those conditions to be able to hunt in that type of clarity. These fish, however, are used to a foot, 18 inches, maybe 2 foot of visibility at all times. So the fact that they couldn't see but 3 or 4 inches in front of their face really made them not eager to attack any of the baits that Joe and I were throwing at them. Now that does sound like a big time excuse, and I'm not trying to make excuses, because there were some guys in the tournament who did catch some decent fish. But they were few and far between. The vast majority of the field did pretty bad during that entire tournament. In fact, not even every person who cashed a check in that tournament actually caught a limit on both days. That tells you, in a field of almost 200 anglers, how tough the fishing was on a lake that massive and typically very, very good. So, with all of that being said, Joe and I unfortunately did not catch any scoreable fish for the tournament. We both blanked on both days, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, and we accepted it for that. And we still caught some fish. I caught my very first bass outside of the state of Oklahoma, which was actually really nice. And after day one of the tournament, we went back to our campsite, we chilled out, we drank some ice cold beer, we slept in late the next morning, grabbed breakfast, and then went out and basically did some fun fishing. We took pictures, we looked for areas that looked really pretty to take some cool video, and we just had a good time from that point on. And yeah, we went up there to compete. We went up there to hopefully win a tournament. But that just wasn't in the cards this time. But that doesn't mean you have to have a sour mood about it. We did our best from that point on to turn it into a very fun camping and fishing trip, which I'm really thankful we did, because it ended up being a much, much more fun experience from that point on once we had that mindset. And then suddenly it was all over, guys. Day 2 of the tournament wrapped up. We were no longer allowed to be on the lake and fish. And to be honest, Joe and I did not feel like going to the award ceremony. We knew that there were going to be giveaways, and we knew there were going to be drawings for prizes. But the real truth of the matter, and he and I will both attest to this, we looked at each other and said, I miss my wife. So we decided to just go ahead and pack up and hit the road and skip the award ceremony, get back to Oklahoma so that we could see our families and just fall asleep in our own beds as early as possible that night. So, like I said, overall this trip was a roller coaster of experiences, pros and cons, just all kinds of different events that took place. But I'm really glad the trip happened. I feel like Joe and I became closer as friends in a lot of different ways. We had a chance to have some really great conversations that we've never had the opportunity to have before. And we had a wonderful time drinking some cold beer, enjoying the beautiful lake, getting some good pictures. We just wish the fishing had been just a tad bit better, seeing as that's the whole reason we came up there. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot, I feel like, and I think that I am even more prepared for the All American Kayak Classic next year, which I am sure I will qualify for once again. With all of that being said, that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Thank you so much if you took the time to watch today's video. I really, really appreciate you. I hope you'll go the extra mile and smash that like button down below. And be sure to drop a comment if you want a chance to be our very next Jabroni of the week. I will catch all of you in the next one. Remember, I love you all, I appreciate you all, and if it ain't Joe, it's gotta go. Angler out.